So in paradigms as human constructions, we must whoever, for example, if I am postulating a theory, I must persuade the scientific community, that is all of you and all researchers around the world, that my model is valid, both quantitatively and qualitatively. That is, it can be worked in terms of numbers, and it can be worked uh, in terms of narrative form. So Guba and Lincoln, in their research, they have said reader cannot be compelled to accept our analysis, our arguments on the basis of incontestable logic or indisputable evidence. We only hope to persuade, to be persuasive, and demonstrate the utility of our position for the public domain. So, what does that mean in our context? In our context, what that means is, I cannot say I will only solve. I only want to educate the drivers. I don't want to fix the road. Or somebody else will say, I only want to, if you fix the road, then the drivers will behave themselves. They will not cause traffic jams. I cannot do that. We have to demonstrate the utility. That is, our solution, whatever solution we come up with, has to be useful to people. All right. So that is a paradigm as human constructions. They are not absolute. They are human constructions. They are therefore prone to the same errors as human beings. They are not perfect. So you remember in the Kuhn's cycle, it is you see it is a cycle. As the model develops drift and it comes to a critical point, new models will develop. So we as researchers must be prepared for that. Now, this is the main part of our discussion today. The main part of our discussion today is going to be with regard to these aspects. Now, there are four pillars of paradigms. The four pillars of paradigms are ontology, epistemology, methodology, and axiology. Now, so many ologies are there. What will happen is everybody will get confused. So let me assure you, உங்களுக்கு எல்லாம் தெரியும். You know this. You know it because you use it every day. And we will take examples that help us understand this every day. So what is ontology? Ontology is the question of what is the nature of reality. Right? What is real? What is the truth? That is what ontology studies. So ontology studies what is the nature of reality. I will give an example of this as we go along. So it questions what is the nature, what is real. That is all that ontology is asking. Epistemology says what is the truth? How can we know reality? So if ontology is what is reality and what is the nature of reality, epistemology means how can we know reality. All right. Third, methodology. How do we study this reality? How do we gain knowledge? And the fourth aspect is what is the role of values and ethics, or how we apply values and ethics. In research methodology, we've gone through research ethics. So, for example, there are certain things that we cannot do when we get into research, or certain questions that you cannot ask when you get into research because they are ethically wrong. For example, there was an example in our first semester of a researcher who scared a child. Does anybody remember what that was called? What experiment that was? You can unmute and tell us. Do we remember the little Albert experiment for conditioned fear?
Albert Bandura.
Correct. So that experiment was criticized for its for ethical violations. So that is an example of uh, axiology, where we study what is the role of values and ethics. Now, these are all very abstract concepts. So let us look at them in terms of happiness. So we are conducting a study on happiness. Now, under this, and under ontology, the researcher wants to find out what is the nature of happiness. So remember that each of these four pillars can be split into two types. One is positivist or post-positivist, and naturalistic or interpretivist. So critical and emancipatory and mixed methods we will study separately, but the primary two are positivist and naturalistic. So positivist is a quantitative, relying on numbers. A naturalistic, interpretivist, or constructivist paradigm is qualitative. It relies on gathering qualitative data, rich data, okay, through, say, interviews and things like that. So let us look at happiness. Now, ontology, that is, what is the nature of happiness? The researcher assumes that happiness is a objective reality. It is independent of an individual's perception. So a positivist researcher will say that it can be measured by the amount of dopamine in the brain. If you remember our first semester, we studied about dopamine, right? The neurotransmitter. So there is a standardized happiness scale. We can measure the amount of dopamine in the brain. So a positivist will say that happiness, what is the nature of happiness? It is the amount of dopamine in the brain, or it is the score on a standardized happiness scale. But the constructivist or the qualitative researcher, the naturalistic researcher, will say no, that is not right. Happiness is subjective. What makes you happy is not what makes me happy. It is experienced differently by each person based on their life experience. So there are multiple realities of happiness. The positivist says there's one reality of happiness. It can be measured. Similarly, epistemology. What is the nature of knowledge? Going back to happiness, right? This is about the relationship between the researcher and what they are studying. So the researcher says, I can use scientific methods and find universal laws of happiness that apply to everybody. This is the positivist. The researcher will say that. But the constructivist will say, then we can understand happiness by interacting with a happy person. If I am happy and I talk to somebody else who is happy, then we can understand and have different meanings and interpretations of happiness. So that is the epistemology. What is the truth? What is the truth about happiness? And how can we know? How can we know that we are happy? So I will ask a question at this point. How do you know that you are happy? How do you measure your happiness?
When I play my favorite game.
So broadly, we can say when you engage in an activity that is interesting to you or that causes a release of dopamine in your system. Is that accurate?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Anyone else? How do you say that you are happy? How can you know your happiness?
நமக்கு என்ன பிடிக்குதோ அதை செய்யும் பொழுது நம்ம ரொம்ப ஹாப்பியா இருக்கணும்.
கரெக்ட். நமக்கு எது பிடிக்குதோ, if we do something that we like, it brings happiness. So we measure happiness subjectively. எனக்கு பிடிச்சது உங்களுக்கு பிடிச்சது are two different things. So for example, one person may be happy by being altruistic. Another person may be happy by being hedonistic. Again, I'm very sorry. I'm reminding you of first semester portions. So some people, so that supports the theory that happiness is relative, and therefore many people lean towards the constructivist or the naturalistic idea. Similarly, let us look at methodology. Now, when it comes to methodology, how do we measure happiness? How will you so again I will put a question to our group. How will you measure happiness if you are a quantitative researcher or a positivist researcher? How will you measure happiness? Remember, positivist people believe in absolute measurement. How would you measure happiness in a research group?
When I win the game, or when I'm rewarded with prize.
Okay, let me rephrase the question. Sorry. You are a researcher. You have been given 10 people. How would you measure their happiness?
By their body language and expression.
Excellent.
By their
Maybe-
body language and expression.
All right.
We can ask a set of questionnaire, a survey kind.
You can do a survey.
With respect to quantitative research.
With a respective. So what about qualitative side? What will you do?
Conduct some activity.
Using a scale.
You will
Using
use
a scale.
Okay, using a scale would be again quantitative, because you will get a rating or a quantitative result. So what about qualitative? How will you do it?
Am I happy or not happy? Am I neutral? Like that.
Right. So that would be on a scale. Anything to do with a scale is a positivist or a quantitative methodology. A constructivist or naturalistic would be getting an interview, conducting a focus group, doing a case study where you are not measuring on a scale. For example, if I ask this group what are the things that make you happy, I'm not asking you, are you happy on a scale of 1 to 10? I am asking you, I asked you, for example, what is it? How do you measure your happiness? One of the responses was by doing something that I enjoy doing. See, that is not a measure, that's not a rating. So that is a constructivist paradigm. So similarly, you have, so for quantitative and qualitative, there are different methods. Now to axiology. So axiology is a little complicated, because in a positivist paradigm, it is values are seen as a source of bias. So we want to be value free, we want to be objective. I don't want to involve value. I only report the data. But in a constructivist axiology, values are absolutely necessary. So in the positivist axiology, in the positivist paradigm, what happens is researchers will say, I am not concerned with whether it is right or it is wrong, or these things are, my research does not look at the values. It is only data. The constructivist researcher says, yes, they practice something called reflexivity. That means they will contemplate what biases am I bringing to the research, right? So values should not be, they don't want values removed from the research problem, right? So these are the 4 pillars, and we have applied them to happiness. So happiness, in ontology, is happiness is an objective reality. In the positivist ontology is a if for a positivist person, ontology is happiness is a single thing. For a constructivist or a naturalistic observer, researcher, happiness is subjective. Happiness for you is different from me. In terms of epistemology, a positivist believes that knowledge can be gained by remaining detached and using scientific methods to observe and measure. But a constructivist says it is created, we know by collaboration, by talking to the person, by being part of the process. Methodology. A positivist methodology uses quantitative methods, uses surveys, uses scales. They have happiness scores. They do experiments, perform statistical analysis to come up with a cause and effect. But a constructivist, they will conduct interviews. They will have focus groups. They want rich narrative data. Right? So if you want to find out, for example, what is the life of a college student like, you can give them many tests and say, okay, college students have a happiness rating, or out of 10 they have a average happiness rating of 6.5. But you want to know, what is it that makes them happy? Going to the cafeteria and hanging out with my friends makes me happy. Bunking class once in a while makes me happy. See, those are, you will not get on a scale. You will get in an interview. So that is a constructivist methodology. Finally, axiology. That is the the role of values and ethics. In positivist paradigm, values are a source of bias. We don't want them. But in a constructivist paradigm, they are essential to the research process. So I hope we are clear on what these 4 pillars are, because these are the most important aspect, and they will also be asked in the exam. So we looked through this.
Alan,
Yeah.
I want to add that college thing, 6.5 rating, they say that they have maximum freedom and less responsibility in that during college days.
Right.
So that will be the major cause for their happiness. So
Correct.
they have maximum freedom to do anything. For example, as you said, to bunk the college or go to the canteen or movie, so like that. But responsibility in sake, both ways, no work, and from the family side also, there is not much of responsibility. So that's how it goes.
Right. So on the
Yeah.
other hand, you also want to consider that they don't have independence. They have limited independence. Like as an adult, nobody is going to question me how I spend my time. Nobody is going to question me where I get my money from or how I'm going to spend my money. So there is always a balance. So now we will look at, so the paradigms in research are typically, 2 of them are considered in our material. There are 2 others, critical and emancipatory, and pragmatist. Pragmatist is a mixing of many methods. So as we have seen, if I want to find out how happy college students are or how happy a married couple is, then we can see that I might need to use mixed methods. Mixed methods yield both qualitative and quantitative data. For a researcher, it helps us gain a better understanding of the problem in the context. All right, we will see an example of this soon. On to the next. Okay, so these are details. I will quickly go through these. the details are not important from an exam perspective, but they are important from understanding the concept. So positivism, we already talked about it. Positivism measures a problem to test the cause and effect. So from research, there is a researcher called Durkheim who, in fact, he is one of the considered one of the fathers of sociology, where he has written a book called Suicide, where he studied suicide in detail. And until his study, everybody used to say suicide is a psychological fact. It is primarily a psychological event. It is caused by psychological factors. ஆனா இவங்க ப்ரூவ் பண்ணது it is a social fact. It is influenced by social factors. So you can always look up Durkheim. Suicide is the book. It's a famous book. நீங்க பாத்துக்கலாம். In fact, நீங்க ஃபாலோ பண்ணீங்கன்னா அவங்க arguments are very beautifully he has argued. As psychologist, I was a little jealous that somebody. I was both proud and jealous. I was proud of the fact that a psychologist was responsible for the discipline of sociology. At the same time, I was a little jealous that he has actually taken the realm, a psychological subject, and made it a sociological topic. So it's a very interesting book. If you are able to read it at some point, please do. Let us come back to our traffic problem. நாங்க இன்னும் நாங்க traffic jamல தான் மாட்டிருக்கோம். So positivism says you first count all the vehicles, record all the speeds, find out how wide the road is, how many potholes are there, how many buses, how many cars, right? So they then test the signals whether to solve the problem. So positivism relies on objectivity, reliability, generalizability, right? Post positivism enna பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா they'll say we can be wrong. It is like I am 100% sure this is right, but maybe it is wrong. That is all the difference. So that is the positivism or post-positivism. That is the fundamental idea of this paradigm.
This for the traffic thing. Can I add one thing?
Yes, please.
So for the traffic, I think the Bangalore and Chennai city, they are planning for a AI traffic control system. It will be driven by artificial intelligence. What they are saying is, I don't know, some would have noticed. For example, if you ride in from Coimbatore to till Central Railway Station, you'll have around close to 10 to 12 signals. And if you cross one signal at a particular time, and if you are in a same speed, you can cross all the signals. You will get green. I don't know. You have if you for that you have to maintain a constant speed, and you have to, without any hindrance, you have to pass on all the signals. If you pass on all the signals, you will get green. So this kind of study they are doing in artificial intelligence, and they are monitoring the vehicle movement and frequency. According to that, they are changing the signal mode. It will not be a constant. For example, if you stand in a traffic signal, it will be for 45 seconds you have to wait. So next will be once the signal is on, then again you have to wait for a 45 seconds. This they are changing into respective to the signal. I mean the frequency and heaviness of the signal. They are changing this timing. This timer will be changed from 45 seconds. Either it will be increased or decreased. Likewise, they are doing this AI thing for traffic signals. I think sooner or later it will be implemented in main areas of Chennai, I believe. Just for input, this article was there in Hindu actually.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
But it's practically not possible, because when you drive a car in the same speed, you cannot expect a two-wheeler to come in between. Definitely they will come. So the front person will go slow. So what you're telling is acceptable if you maintain the speed, but it is impossible to maintain the speed.
By the way, I'm from Bangalore, so maintaining speed is not something we do over here. And the traffic
Lane discipline is also to be maintained.
yes, that also Bangalore is very rare.
Yes. I've been to Bangalore.
Everywhere.
Yes, I've seen.
Anyway, we will, so continuing on to we are going to deal with the same problem with a different paradigm. Now, under the constructivism or interpretivism paradigm, we will not look at the data. What we will do is we will try to understand the meaning and the reasons why people choose certain things. So we will interview drivers, bus conductors, traffic police, pedestrians, two-wheeler riders, change the like Suleiman sir was saying, use AI or use other tools to um, uh, change the frequency of the signal changing, or change work hours. I believe one of our colleagues had mentioned school timings, office timings, all around the same time. Maybe we can change that. In fact, my child's school, they did that. They changed the school timing so that it will reduce the traffic congestion near the school. So these are done through interpretivistic or through constructivistic studies. So here, if you remember, we saw four criteria. These four criteria: credibility, transferability, dependability, and conformability by Lawrence and Guba. These are very important in constructivism. In fact, Lawrence and Guba are the people, Lincoln and Guba, sorry, not Lawrence and Guba. Lincoln and Guba are the people who proposed the very theory of a constructivistic paradigm. So they believe that it should be, a research problem should be trustworthy. And there should be thick description. That means it should be in great detail. For example, you will see this when in psychopathology, when we deal with this, or if you go to a psychiatric care facility, upon admission, the attending doctor will take a detailed history. Detailed, I mean 45 minutes to 1 hour with the patient, 1 hour with the caregiver, because they want rich data, rich narrative data to analyze the problem. So this is where constructivism is used. Briefly, we will just touch on critical or emancipatory policies. This is just the simple idea of question பண்றது. இந்த மாடல் அடாப்ட் பண்றதுனால who will benefit? யாருக்கு பெனிஃபிட் கிடைக்கும்? மினிஸ்டருக்கு பெனிஃபிட் கிடைக்குமா? பேஷண்ட்க்கு பெனிஃபிட் கிடைக்குமா? தெரபிஸ்ட்க்கு பெனிஃபிட் கிடைக்குமா? That question. So you analyze. In the traffic, you analyze, as we mentioned, who is going to benefit? Will the bus passengers benefit? Will car owners benefit? Developers will benefit? Road minister will benefit? Who will benefit? And whether you should use the solution that we come up with, will it benefit the maximum group, the majority group? So in terms of various factors, safety, time, cost. And so this involves, again, multiple. It involves focus groups, which is qualitative. It involves data, which is quantitative. But the focus is on exposing structural inequalities and making changes. So emancipation means to free. So the idea is to be very practical, not theoretical. So that is critical. Now, pragmatism or mixed methods, again, is about being practical. So if you see, pragmatism will say use whatever methods. Get GPS data, you measure traffic signals in terms of timing, do all of that. Then talk to people, evaluate, talk to them, get their experiences and all these things. So they focus mainly on on being practical. Whatever practically works, use whatever data, use qualitative, quantitative, analyze, use various methods, it's fine. In the end, it should be practical for the city. That is the pragmatic or mixed methods in research. This is one of the most used methods or the most used paradigm in research. There is also a postmodern or a discourse based, that is in a discussion based, which analyzes text, and we talked about reflexivity, that is the researcher themselves will say, my own bias, my own experience, how is it that the researcher drives a car, their bias will be to make it easier for themselves. We will introduce a policy that makes it easier for the researcher. That bias will always be there. So that is where this kind of discourse will examine that and see, okay, maybe we should involve more researchers. Maybe we should have researchers who also, or participants in the research, who represent the actual population. People who go by bus, people who go by cycle, people who go take the metro. So we need everybody's voice must be added to the group. So this is another paradigm which is mentioned briefly but not touched on in detail. So we have now come to the core issues. What is the issues? One of the issues is, it's called paradigm conflict, mainly between the positivist and the naturalist or the constructivist. Positivist will say, I believe in data. In-depth interview is not evidence. It is simply somebody blabbering. You have gone and written down what they are blabbering, that I don't accept it. The ethnographer, the person who takes the interviews, who is studying details, for example, a person studying the mental health of somebody in a slum, the person may be uneducated, so they cannot go and give them a survey. They may not even know how to read 1 to 10. They cannot go and give them a survey and say, please complete a survey. So they will go and ask them, what is your life like? Is there running water? Do you have sanitation? Are your children going to school? This will yield qualitative data. But if a positivist comes and says, no, you give them a survey. I want them to have a survey. They will say it has no context. So this is one of the conflict. Paradigm conflict or incommensurability is one of the issues. The second is choosing a paradigm. How do you choose a paradigm? First, to measure the prevalence, that is to measure how much something is happening, you use a quantitative, that is numbers, surveys, ratings, to measure prevalence. But if you want to understand the meaning, do qualitative. That is, ask questions, have interviews, do case studies. So that is, choosing a paradigm is one of the issues. We already talked about this. You can mix paradigms. That is, use quantitative paradigms, positivist paradigms, to identify specific areas. Then to do interviews in those areas to explain why something is happening. We will look at an example. So in Chennai, when we go around, almost everybody has UPI. But why do some people have UPI and why do some people not have UPI? Can we think about that? And does anybody have any theories on why some shops have UPI, some shops may not have UPI? They won't accept UPI payments.
Some shops still accept cash. That could be to avoid the tax payment.
Excellent. Any other reasons?
They might not have knowledge on the UPI transactions. So he might think that someone who's taking care manager could easily cheat him because he doesn't have the knowledge of the UPI transaction.
The lack of so that is excellent. That is ignorance. In one case, the shopkeeper wants to avoid. In another case, there is ignorance. So let us look at it in terms of paradigm, in these paradigms that we have learned. So first is the positivist. Positivist will say, I want a structured survey of how many shopkeepers use UPI. what is their age, what is their education, do they have a smartphone, yes or no. So I can predict. But the constructivist or the naturalist will say, how do shopkeepers understand digital payments? Do they trust UPI? As ma'am pointed out, is there an ethical issue? Do they want to avoid taxes? Is it convenient for them? Do the customers, are they from a lower strata or economic strata where they have only feature phone? They don't have a smartphone, so they can't do UPI transactions. For example, a man who is person selling broomsticks on the road, whether he needs UPI. Those are questions which are, so the positivist will say, I want to know all the factors, do a survey, do a structured sample, I will do regression, do some model predictions and all that. The constructivist will say, I want interviews. I want to check which during peak hours, whether people use UPI more or they just go with cash. This study, for example, a psychologist who is an environmental psychologist may be able to do this to benefit, say, Chennai Metro. Chennai has one of the finest metros in the country. Chennai Metro. Do people prefer to pay cash or use the mobile app? Where these are the questions that can be studied. So these are the two main paradigms. The other paradigms say talk about structural inequalities. For example, the critical paradigm will say, does the shopkeeper have access to banking? Is he digitally literate? Does his shop staff know how to accept UPI? Right? What about marginalized shopkeepers? So uneducated shopkeepers. So that is the critical paradigm. The mixed paradigm will say you have a survey, but also have interviews before you can come to a conclusion. So this is for example, it's a mini case study on how each of these paradigms affect a real system, a UPI adoption system. If anybody has any comments or anybody has any viewpoints, please feel free to share.
No, you can carry on.
All right.
So I just wanted to quote an example for the mixed paradigm. So
Yes, please go ahead.
yeah, it is like it's not wrong, the right or the other way right. So since it was in 2000, there was an article came and there was a discussion. So in 2000, since you were talking about the traffic, I just wanted to mention. So everyone was worried, how come so many cars and just a small city in Coimbatore, they were talking. Coimbatore was not such a big city to have so many cars. But as they were discussing, they told that the main reason for being cars on the road is the bankers. The bankers started the EMI. So before that, we used to have full cash, paying cash to purchase the electronic products or whatever it is. But since 2000, the main thing they started the EMI. So that is one of the biggest reasons for everyone to easily purchase a car or whatever it is. The second thing is that the manufacturers they want to increase their sales of cars and two wheelers, so they made the different styles of manufacturing cars and motorbikes. So that is also another reason of people making people tempting to purchase their own products. So at that time, we had a booming MNC like BPO, all those stuff, where they used to pay more than what they're expecting. A government officers, employee is not earning as much as a person is earning in a BPO who's doing a night shift. So all these reasons, when you relate one by another, so these are the things why we have so many cars and things. And also they have added one of the reasons is that now from 2000 the people are becoming nuclear family than the joint family. So that is also one of the reasons. So these four main reasons are the being for traffic or population, everything. Yeah.
Excellent, sir. Thank you for that very clear breakdown. Now, one important point that I wanted to show from what sir said, all of those conclusions were arrived at based on psychological research. இப்போ அவங்க ஸ்டடி குரூப் when they make research groups கவர்மெண்ட்ல இல்லைன்னா பிரைவேட் ஆர்கனைசேஷன்ஸ்ல ரிசர்ச் குரூப் அசெம்பிள் பண்ணும்போது they will include engineers, lawyers, psychologists, sociologists, depending on the, for example, traffic is a very complicated problem. Study பண்ணும்போது they will include people from all relevant professions. So many of the conclusions that sir pointed out have come from psychological research. So using one of these paradigms. So in our material, there is another topic, which is again an exam topic, theoretical sampling. Now, theoretical sampling என்னன்னா நான் ரீசர்ச் பண்ணும்போது நான் எப்போ நிப்பாட்டணும், when should I stop? When should I stop researching? Illana continuous, in English they say a rabbit hole. You will go into a rabbit hole and you won't come out. You will continuously be researching. But so instead of that, research methodology gives us a model by which to stop. Theoretical sampling. So theoretical sampling is a tool that allows a researcher to generate theoretical insights by comparing samples of data. Data can be population, events, activities, time periods, etc. So you select the sample and you select whether to study or continue studying or stop studying based on emerging theory. Then you compare iteratively. So first you study, you come to some conclusions, then you iterate. That is, you take another sample, you study it, and based on that, till you come to a theoretical saturation. That is, till you cannot there are nothing new comes out of your research. This is the concept of theoretical sampling. Now we will look at an example. Now let us say, as a researcher, you are a psychologist, you are a researcher, you want to build a theory about how modernization and technology are changing the process of arranged marriage among young couples, young professionals in Chennai. How will you do it? Here is the method. Here is one method. So I will come up. This is why each of you may approach the problem differently, but here is one method. So those of us who are married, please you can examine your own marriages, and everybody is a subject matter expert because you can examine either your own marriage. If you are not married, you can examine somebody else's marriage. No problem. And anybody wants to comment, feel free. So in the theoretical experiment, I wanted to study this. So what I do, I start with a very broad question. Very broad question. I start with, I don't know where I'm going to go. So first I start with a question. I want to find out, I want to study this arranged marriage market. So I will talk to a few unmarried software engineers. I'll talk to a few people working in various professions, doctors, engineers, lawyers, accountants, various professions, teachers. I will conduct in-depth interviews. So I'm doing qualitative research. Then I get a basic theme. I identify, okay, all of these people are relying, these young people they are saying, okay, either they will go and find somebody and they will appoint their parent as the project manager but the finding somebody is out of scope. We are only looking at arranged marriage. So for arranged marriage, one theme comes up. Parents are the project manager. So the parent will go to the matrimonial website, the parent will upload the photograph, the parent will conduct all the background check. You don't know whether the parent is going to be marrying the person, or the individual, or the individual's parent is going to be married. Right? We don't know that. In the Indian context, it's like that. Parent becomes the project manager. Right? So in this case, we find out, I want to know what is the parent's perspective, what is the child's perspective. So I conduct a study to do that. Then another theme emerges. So this is the theme is that most in Chennai, most of the parents are not looking only at the, okay, what is the earlier in an earlier generation, therefore you have to look at the photograph. Now no looking at photographs. Now look at the LinkedIn, look at the Instagram, look at the person's social media profile. Are they good? What kind of photos are there on their profile? What kind of comments are they making? Which political party are they following? Then they want to establish what brand. My son works for Google. He doesn't work for a local company. He works for Google. So suddenly he has become more valuable in the arranged marriage market. My daughter is an IIT IIM graduate. Yeah, by the way, we know those of us who are from Chennai, we know the legendary rivalry between Pachapas College and Loyola College. So my daughter is from Loyola College. I'm not getting her married to anybody from Pachapas College. Same way, other way around also works. Right? So that is a second theme I come up with. People are not interested only in how they look and how they behave. They're interested in what brand they are associated. Are they a Google groom, or are they an IIT groom or IIT bride? Like that. So next step, further sampling step, I study why are alliances rejected. Was it because of this brand mismatch? Remember, we are thinking of marriage, which is a sociological phenomenon. It has a psychological component. We are thinking of it in terms of brand, because we are thinking of parent as project management. Why not? So what happens is I go to the next step. So I've studied all of these, and I have a lot of data which tells me, is bringing me to a conclusion. So the final step, I interview marriage brokers, I analyze profiles on shadi.com, I do all this. Finally, no other new information I'm getting, and I propose a theory that urban marriages in Chennai are influenced heavily by the educational brand and the career brand of the bride and the groom. And this theory then is put out in published a paper, and it goes out to the world, and people comment on it. I may be right, I may be wrong, all of those things. So this is how theoretical sampling works. Any questions or comments? All right. So in psychology, how will we apply this? For example, if you are studying imposter syndrome, can anybody tell me what imposter syndrome is? Do we know what imposter syndrome is? Anyone? We're all psychology masters, so imposter syndrome is our bread and butter. So imposter syndrome is a persistent feeling. It's a self-doubt that I am not good enough, I'm not talented, I'm not as talented as other people believe I am. Not talented irundalum, I'm very high achieving. Ana, I feel inside, illa, I am not. I've got it somehow by chance. Somehow I managed and I got it. So that is imposter syndrome. Now, in a psychological context, when we study sampling, when we do a theoretical sampling, and if we are studying imposter syndrome among, say, young men who are first time, they're in their family, they're the first ones to come to university. So you start with a in-depth interview among college students. They will feel then the first emerging theme that they will come up with. Let's go back to it. First initial step is you first study. You study. You take an interview of all the of a sample, not all, but a sample of young men and women who are attending a college. Then, if they feel like nobody else in my family is a college graduate, I don't belong here. So they feel that they feel like I have to succeed in this. Otherwise, my family's honor will go. I want to be the first in my family to earn a college degree. So then you say, okay, this family honor is very interesting. Let us go deeper. Then you talk to the parents, because family honor is you have to involve the family. So then you use both qualitative and quantitative methods to find out, to talk to whether they are whether in their community or in their family there is pressure to study and to make more money, or to become great, or to go into one field, become a doctor, engineer, or something. So then you get a second emerging theme. They want the parents want their children to achieve something, but they feel that if I allow my son or daughter to study medicine, then 15 years of their life is gone. It will affect their marriage. That is a second theme that comes out. So then you have a sample group of the students. You sample for both female students and male students, and understand who is more anxious. You study anxiety levels. You study various other factors, happiness levels. And finally, you may come to a theory that people who are the first in their family to get into college, they're the first person in their family to get into a college, undergo more anxiety than people who have college graduates in their family, because of this concept of family honor, because of this concept of family expectations. So then you can describe their psychological experience for this particular demographic, and you come up with a theory. So in our field in psychology, this is how theoretical sampling would work. So this brings us to the end of our lesson. The most important concepts are the four pillars. The four pillars of paradigms, that is ontology, epistemology, methodology, and axiology. That is, what is the nature of reality? What is truth? How can we know reality? How do we study reality and gain knowledge? What is the role of values and ethics in our research? And the four paradigms, which are positivist or quantitative, naturalistic, constructivistic or interpretivist paradigm, which is qualitative. Then there is critical, that looks to see who benefits from this particular research, and pragmatist, that is what is practical for most of the people. These are the main themes of chapter number 6. I will share the slides and any other notes. Thank you so much for your time and attention. If there are any questions or comments, please feel free, after which we will end the class.
Thank you, Alan, sir. Well explained. I think it looks like a tough topic.
Not very, but I'm sure that even the topics that you all took are quite complicated. This was actually a short chapter. There are about 1 or 2 questions which come from this chapter. One in, say, I think 6 mark and 2 mark primarily from the exam perspective.
Yeah, okay. But for me, I don't know about others, but for me, it looks like a bit of chapter. Let us see. Okay, but you have explained it well, sir, with the examples. That will help a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Thank you. Very kind. All right, everyone. Our class is ended. We will reconvene tomorrow for our next class. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Well explained.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Excellent class.